Welcome to the channel, viewers. Dr. J.W. Morrison. Freedom of speech, the crucible of democracy.
We are joined by Queensland One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts. Senator, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's good to be here.
Senator, this is your first interview since the assassination attempt on former US President Donald Trump. Would you like to give a comment?
Yes, first of all, I want to say that our Prime Minister should be held in complete disregard because he's gone out and he's used this violence to promote his misinformation and disinformation bill. Totally wrong. A real leader, a man of substance, would use it to unite people, condemn the violence and ask for calm and unity. But I'm very happy that Donald Trump survived with minimal injuries. I'm looking forward, in fact, Alexandra, to do what Pauline and I did in November 2016 after Donald Trump's victory in the election and pop a bottle of champagne and toast his win. I'm looking forward very much to it because he's going to win this. He's going to win this battle, and he's already now taking off in the polls, which is wonderful. People can see what he's made of.
Yes, I think it has renewed a love of American patriotism. Even Democrats, hardcore Democrats, have started to go, you know what, that is what I look at and think of as America. So yes, you're right, raise a glass of champagne to Trump today and toast his good health. But look, in true Anthony Albanese style, you're quite right. Our Prime Minister has found a way to make the events unfolding in the US about himself and about Labor's hostile free speech policies. Now, Albanese said, and I quote, "Be on guard against those seeking to use misinformation to create division," end quote. Senator, Twitter accurately reported the assassination attempt within minutes, but it was CNN who carried the headline, "President Trump fell down." The Washington Post said Trump left after loud noises, and the BBC said, you know, Trump rushed off stage for loud bangs at the rally. Now, who are the real masters of misinformation and disinformation, Senator?
The real masters of misinformation and disinformation, Alexandra, are the people that are exempted from the provisions in the misinformation and disinformation bill. Those exempted from censorship. That is the government and the mouthpiece media, the globalist media, the big brother media. That's who's protected by this. What they want to do is prop up the market that is abandoning the mouthpiece media. The government wants to keep on spreading misinformation, as it did during the COVID mismanagement and deceit. The mouthpiece media helped the government in that process of covering up and suppressing the news and censoring people. So what we're seeing here is the mouthpiece media in full retreat because they have been so pilloried by their own censorship and their own inaccuracies and own mistruth that people no longer believe them, and they're dumping the mouthpiece media holus bolus. And what we're seeing now is the major networks and even the ABC and the newspaper networks reeling under the pressure of their subscribers, just abandoning them and saying thank you. And advertisers and the advertising money goes with the eyeballs, and they're now turning to citizen journalists. People like ADH TV, TNT Radio, George Christensen's Nation First, and a whole host of private, independent news media, including Rogan and Tucker Carlson internationally. So that's what's going on. The real people being protected are the mouthpiece media because they're surrendering to their own ineptness.
And a little note to our viewers, those politicians who argue for your freedom and for your speech are the ones who are not doing deals under the table with mainstream media about their political careers. So just keep an eye on that. And look, we are seeing political leaders around the world trying to use events like this attempted assassination to demonstrate why we must crack down on social media. Now, I see two problems with this. The first is that the 20-year-old in question didn't really have a social media presence. But more importantly, the dangerous and escalated rhetoric did not originate on Twitter. It came directly from the office of the US President Biden, from his speeches, from his ad campaigns, and from his press conferences. It's important that we seek to protect, is it important, Senator, that we seek to protect our freedom of speech and our freedom of political communication during times like this?
Yes, it is very important. And by the way, I've already been censored on YouTube yet again, most recently just a couple of weeks ago. I was given a 2-week ban because of 13 videos that have been posted over the last 12 months. And some of them have been up.
Yeah, I just want to say YouTube shadow banned this channel, Pro-Bricky, not Pro-Theologist, since it started. I've had nothing but trouble. Some people are emailing me and saying we can't even like or comment on your videos. I think with YouTube, and I want to be very careful because it is a platform that's usable to a point. It depends who you get that's monitoring your channel. If you get someone that's woke left, you're had it. You're not going nowhere. But if you get someone that's a little bit more liberal, your channel will break through, but it's very, very hard.
As I said, for 12 months, but they only just triggered their new algorithm. So we don't post things about COVID anymore because we're going to be banned by YouTube. YouTube could not explain to us why we were banned. They just said, we'll shorten your ban because you've asked, so we got banned for 1 week. But the censorship is already in YouTube, which is run by Google. So what we've got to realise is that, you know, the government spending on advertising is huge. It's enormous in America and also big pharma spending, but in this country it's government. And the media is afraid to upset that government largesse coming in. So taxpayers are funding the destruction of media, which is then controlling taxpayers and putting people like me in a band. I'm a duly elected Member of Parliament representing the people of Queensland and Australia. How the hell can I listen to members of the public and speak to them and give them feedback and tell them where I'm going and what I'm doing for them and get their feedback if I'm not allowed to speak, thanks to YouTube? That's what this is all about. The private...
Well, YouTube, if you're hearing this, it's no good you getting upset. It might pay you to take some notice and not be so woke and leftist.
The independent news media, the individual people talking, politicians who are not in the government, that's who they aim to suppress with misinformation, disinformation bill, because we don't get government money.
Well, how can you have an open political conversation with the people who are asking to elect you if you're having to self-censor because there are topics, political topics, on YouTube, on Facebook that will get your larger account removed? I mean, it sounds like independent senators like yourself, you have these wonderful ideas and these great contradictions to the terrible policies of government, and yet you can't post them because if you do, you'll be taken offline. That sounds like political interference, Senator.
It is political interference. It's censorship of the democratic process. That's why this is about democracy. Freedom of speech is the foundation for democracy, Alexandra. You know that better than just about anyone in the country. Not only because of your past, but because of your writings and because of who you are now and who you're with right now, ADHTV. But freedom of speech is the crucible for democracy. It's absolutely essential for democracy. And members of Parliament have not only a right, but a duty to communicate with their constituents and to engage with constituents and to listen to his constituents. How the hell can I represent people if I can't listen and I can't engage in feedback? That is fundamental to democracy, and it always has been and always will be.
Well, look,
these people are totalitarians.
Well, legacy media is actually pivoting to condemn Twitter for misinformation because people are speculating about what happened. I mean, Twitter is filling the role of pub talk for people who don't understand. You're allowed to have a guess at what's going on. You're allowed to discuss things on Twitter. That's the whole point of social media. And it's a healthy society if it can actually chatter amongst itself. Now, Elon Musk seems to agree. He's donating $45 million every single month to Trump's campaign. Is this what you'd call an investment in free speech? Or maybe he should keep that money and save it for to fight the safety commissioner?
I think Elon Musk is leading the campaign that's promising $45 million a month to the Trump campaign. Yes, it is essential. But you know, pub talk eventually can often lead to the reality. And when you see the mouthpiece media taking quotes, as you've just said, from CNN, BBC, you know, Trump, what did one of them say? Oh, it was a sarcasm, admittedly, but it was typical of the mouthpiece media. Trump stumbles and hits head on bullet, you know. It was his fault. So what we're seeing is that when you see real live audio and video, and you see that in real time, and you see what happened, that's the way the truth comes out. And that means that the government is held accountable because they cannot distort the truth, they can't suppress the investigation. And that's what you get when you've got millions of hearts and minds, and in the case of the rally, tens of thousands of hearts and minds with cameras all photographing. You know, I was watching some of the rally with my wife afterwards, of course, after the horrific event, and I said, look at them. As soon as the event happened, there were people up with their cameras, and that was wonderful. That's democracy in action, and it shows a lot when the totalitarians want to shut that down because they're afraid of free speech, they're afraid of truth, they're afraid of reality, and they're afraid of being held accountable. What
a great image that is, Senator. Basically, all those cameras being held aloft, that is 1,000 scribes taking note of our history. And at least it's being written by a group and by a crowd and not by some faceless people that we'll never know. We have no idea what they think. I'd much rather the crowd write our history. But look, I need to talk about something very serious here for a second.
Well, not only that,
you go.
Not only that, Alexandra, when you've got millions of hearts and minds talking, mulling things over, it's better than having groupthink, which reflects one person or one tight little totalitarian focus group. It's far, far better. That's the way human progress is continued. That's the way humans use their initiative and use their communal sense, their sense of coming together and working as a species. That's what's really important in society. Humans getting together and telling the truth.
Look, I need to
and being held accountable when they don't.
I need to ask you about one serious point here, though, before we go, and that is our freedom of speech and your freedom of speech is not only under threat from Albanese and Dutton and the E-Safety Commissioner, but also from the European Commission, who last week engaged in a public fight with Elon Musk, ironically on Twitter. The Commission is demanding special access to Twitter so that it can investigate and action onerous misinformation and disinformation policies. Refusal to do so will attract enormous fines for Twitter. Now, the European Commissioner, Mr. Brenton, said, "I am the enforcer. I represent the law law, which is the will of the state and the people. I mean, it's basically as if Julie Inman Grant was a powerful bureaucracy. Are you concerned about this infiltration of the European Commission?
But there's nothing new there, Alexandra. The European Commission hides behind the facade of a parliament in the European Parliament. The real power is with the European Commissioner. That's why the United Nations senior leadership has said quite often that their model for totalitarian global governance, which is their self-admitted aim, their model is the European Commission. That's it. And so what we're seeing here is just the true arrogance, the control, the totalitarian aspects of the European Commissioner coming out into the open. Surely people can see this.
Well, I've got one final question.
The total opposite of what democracy is.
I've got one final question here for you, Senator, and thank you so much for joining us, of course. Look, it seems as if we are walking on the thin edge here when it comes to losing our freedom of political speech. It's as if the Enlightenment is rolling over and our entire civilization is shifting towards some despotic, socialist-style system that dominate the rest of the world. We had a poll in 2023, I believe it was, that said that 40% of Australians want to live under socialism, and only 7.8% of the world currently live in a full democracy. The rest of everybody else is basically slaves. Freedom is a minority position. How do we keep it that way? How do we keep ourselves free, Senator?
Telling the truth and sharing the truth. We know that socialism always ends up in more and more control and eventually slides straight into totalitarianism. That's the opposite of what is needed for human progress. What we have to do is expose the reality. These 40% of people you're talking about in a survey, they don't want socialism. They want what's been dressed up to look like something that's positive. Socialism is the way it's dressed these days is a pig with lipstick, or a wolf in some cases with lipstick. We need to hide the wolf and the pigs. We need to show the pigs and the wolves rather, and show the alternative, which is true capitalism. We have got crony capitalism masquerading as socialism, or socialism masking as crony capitalism. We need to extol the virtues of capitalism and point out that we haven't got capitalism, we've got socialism right now, and that's what's giving us the problems we have. The way out of that is to restore capitalism and free speech and democracy. That's what we need.
They think that socialism is a free iPhone, Senator. In reality, the only thing you're given in socialism for free is a shovel so you can go and dig in the gulag. That's it. But look, unfortunately, we're out of time today. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us.